Okay, hi everyone and welcome. We are the CaseM team and today we thought we would have a little get to know us better talk. We're all students here at Kingston University. Some of us are studying popular music and some of us are studying music technology. We're currently on our final year of our degrees and together we're all taking a broadcasting module, hence why CaseM came alive. CaseM stands for Culture, Arts, Society, Education and Music, and it's a collective of our individual brands and channels. So Jay, would you begin by introducing yourself today?
So my name's Jay. I'm based or living in New Malden at the moment, just outside of Kingston. I'm from Tring, which is a little town in northwest Hertfordshire, sort of near Watford. And yeah, that's me.
I'm Ronnie. I'm from Norway and I am currently living in Norway, studying online.
I'm Dan. I'm from Devon, living in Kingston, studying music technology.
And I'm Alex. I'm 21 and I'm from Surbiton. I'm studying music technology and I was originally born in Paddington.
My name is Sofie and I'm originally from Bergen, Norway. I live in Thamesditten, just outside Kingston, and I'm studying popular music.
Awesome. Now we all know each other. So what inspired you to study music? Why was Kingston University a good fit for you? And what do you like best about studying at Kingston?
If we want to keep that order, I'll just jump right in. So I started, I got into music mainly because I started singing in loads of different musical theatre back where I'm from, kind of amateur productions and stuff. And I kept kind of getting lessons, and it was really the only kind of hobby that I had apart from football that was consistent, because I was doing it since the age of 10. And I knew at that point I definitely wasn't becoming a professional footballer. So I kind of got to sixth form, but I dropped out for various reasons, and I ended up actually going to college to study music. And since then, I've just it's just been awesome. For Kingston, the reason I came to Kingston and decided to study was because I thought it provided a great platform to kind of branch out, because I just kind of had that experience in performing, and that's kind of what my college course was centered around. I think, I just kind of saw the facilities and everything and thought, this is a good fit to kind of just branch out into the world of music.
So I chose Kingston University because of its facilities, and also it's not too difficult to get to the location. I'm lucky that I live near the university. The studio rooms are mostly straightforward to set up, and it's really easy to get inspired and compose and produce music. I feel like the other choices I had, they didn't have what I was looking for, and I just really wanted more emphasis on the electronic side of I just felt like I had more versatility with Kingston than I did with other universities.
So I was inspired to study music after I learned guitar, and then I joined a band, and then I figured at uni I'd study music to learn more about it and how to produce. Kingston was a good fit because it was a good location towards London, and it was a good uni. Also, it had the benefit of Visconti studio, and it's been really good so far. It's really good facilities, a lot of good people to collaborate with and make music, and a lot of good uni venues where bands play, where you can meet more people, perform, and
I've always done something with or in relation to music. I've done musicals and like different performing aspects of music. I always enjoyed songwriting, and when I did my A levels, I lived in Cambridge as an exchange student with a family, and I always really liked England, and Kingston came as an obvious choice, as it is really close to London, and it's I don't know, it just looked really good.
Yeah, I've always been very interested in music, like since I was a kid, playing the violin, a little bit of piano, singing, and bass. So I've always been like super involved in it. And then I guess like high school or college, I don't know what it is like in England, but in Norway, I know I did music. And then I just had like a break from music, traveled a bit in the world, and then figure, oh, I should start studying. So then I chose music. And then I looked into stuff that had performing, but also maybe stuff that was kind of outside performing to have more legs to stand on. And then I saw that they had like music journalism. And then I thought, oh, that'd be really cool. So that's why I chose Kingston. And I really like Kingston. Like we do the performing kind of class. We have very small classes. So it's like easy to kind of talk to the teachers and other students. So yeah, I think it's really great.
So what is everyone's project about? Maybe if we could get a little bit more information about each of your channels. Jay, how about we start with you on that aspect? So why don't you explain more about your channel?
So to start off, it's called The Number One Spot, and basically it's kind of a space for sharing music, kind of curating music, and kind of just introducing, or at least trying to introduce people to ways of using resources and just kind of ways of finding new music that otherwise they maybe wouldn't have done. Because at least for me, I've got a real passion for kind of at least kind of sharing the music that I listen to, and kind of I'm sure other people do it as well. You kind of get a bit obsessed with kind of what you're listening to. And I know for sure my friends more often than not are like, oh, we know who's, like, they'll be listening to a song and they don't know who, need to ask who it is because it's just the person, whoever I'm on at the moment. And yeah, I just kind of thought I love kind of talking about whatever I'm into at the moment. So why would I not just kind of include that in my work, I suppose. And yeah, that's sort of it.
Yeah, my project is like representation in the music industry, but also it kind of goes into like representation in the media. So basically just like awareness of like women in the music, or like, yeah, so different genders in the music, but also like race representation. And it's really like doing it, I also learn a lot about it myself, because I feel that sometimes like if I don't read about it, I'm not aware of it and I don't need to worry about it. But then now that I'm like kind of creating content and writing stuff, like it's kind of like, ooh, right off your face, and you kind of have to deal with it. And I just thought it's like, I know a lot of people talk about it, but I just think it's not enough until everyone's talking about it. So that's basically my project or channel.
So my project is basically supporting the hip hop and jazz scene in London. As much as there's a very relevant scene, there's a smaller scene that I've been following that I find really interesting, and I feel like needs more support and awareness. So in my channel, I've been kind of building awareness for that and talking about artists I'm really interested in and I think need to be talked about more, and ways in which these artists are like sharing their music and how it's really cool and original. And I'm just writing articles about that and following the scene.
Yeah, my channel is called Sofie Sings, and it's a channel for parents or guardians or teacher or anyone who's working or has children. And it's basically about how to incorporate more music into their children's lives. Yeah.
And my project is about like tutorials on how to use different plugins and virtual instruments, as well as reviews on different artists at times. That was originally what I was planning on doing, and as well as also talking about different gears. So at the moment, last year I bought an Alesis V25, and I'm going to write a review about how my experiences are with it, the pros and cons, why a MIDI keyboard like this is really useful for composing and producing music on. So yeah. My next question is, so what do you guys all listen to at the moment, or have listened to in the past, like in terms of artists or bands, anything of the sort? How about you, Ronnie? Should we start with you on what kind of artist you listen to?
Sure. I try to listen to like a lot of happy music at the moment, because we're all inside. Or even if we can go outside, like in the nature, it's like, oh, you can't really meet that many people. So I try to listen to happy music. I actually listen to, right now I'm listening to like a lot of old music, because I find that I can find inspiration in old music as well. So I listen to ABBA, Kate Bush, Led Zeppelin, I guess everything from the 70s. I really like that music. So yeah, that's what I'm listening to at the moment. What about you, Jay?
So for me, like earlier, I was talking about, I kind of have my obsessions in a time period, but at the moment, it's just like Frank Zappa non-stop. I even I don't know if any of you guys or anyone's seen it, but I even made a TikTok like about how kind of obsessed I am with him. Like my brother bought like a little mini replica of one of his guitars. Like it's just, no, yeah, I've got like playlists of his music that I listen to for fun when I'm cooking. Like there's a playlist of instrumentals for when I'm studying. Like it's just Frank Zappa non-stop at the moment. But yeah, Dan, what about you, mate? What's your sort of thing at the moment?
Recently, I came out of a really big Elliott Smith phase. So he's kind of like acoustic, kind of folk, indie music from like the 90s. And he had a really big impact. So I got really obsessed with him, went through all his albums, did a bit like you, and like kind of made playlists of just his music, kind of different moods and stuff. Recently I've been listening to a lot of, like my channel, a lot of like jazz around London, which I think is really cool. There's some really cool artists coming out the scene, like Tom Mishk and Yusuf Days. And yeah, there's a lot of good music coming out recently over lockdown. And I'm excited to start going to some gigs when they open up. What about you, Alex?
I have been listening recently to an ambient band called Carbon-Based Lifeforms. It's kind of like really refreshing, especially at these times when, yeah, like Ronnie said, I think we're all very much stuck inside. So that's always refreshing to listen to. It's very, their music is quite nostalgic. I've also been listening to BT, and I've recently, I think Pendulum released Driver, the drum and bass band, and it's quite it's on the opposite spectrum. It's quite exciting, you know. Even though we're locked inside, you've got to look forward to music that has a lot of drive to it as well, I feel. Is that everyone, or did we miss someone? Oh, Sophie, what about you? What about you?
Okay, Alex. I'm really into contemporary worship, so I listen to bands like Bethel and Cage's Birds and stuff. And I also recently became a mother, so I'm finding myself listening a lot to like classical, like Bach and Beethoven and stuff, because I just need to like calm myself down, and and baby seems to enjoy it as well. So yeah, that's me.
So how's everyone coping in the pandemic, music-wise? Like as a music student, has it been a struggle? Has it allowed you to focus more on your work, or has it just been purely a strain and making it harder on yourselves? And let's start with Ronnie.
Yeah, sure. I guess it's been kind of like up and down. In the very beginning, I thought it was really difficult because it was just like, oh, you're all on your own. But then again, I thought, like now looking back on the year we've had, and also end of last year, which we also had like lockdown, and I think I've learned a lot, which is really useful also like in the work life, like later on, and it's actually being independent, and especially as a musician and being creative, like you really need to trust yourself and your own creativity, and like not being too harsh on yourself, and just like, well, this is what I can do, and kind of just trust that. So in that sense, it's been good, and also just like I've really learned to like kind of have my own timetable and like setting my own deadlines and stuff like that, because like I don't know why, but suddenly like when you're all inside and every day is the same, it's suddenly like a month like that, and it's just like, wow, deadline is upon us. So yeah. What about you, Sophie?
I live with my family, so I don't feel like I've been as isolated as I think many people has been. I think for me, it's more been the general of just knowing that there's so many isolated, and like I feel sorry for them, and the kids missing out of school. Luckily, things are opening up now, so kids can go back to school and stuff. But I think, yeah, I think I've done well. Yeah. What about you, Alex?
I've just been like realizing how much you don't really need expensive gear or expensive software to make music. Like especially like I've had that in my head for a while, but I'm just thinking like, oh, you just need to search for like how, there's nothing wrong with being a cheapskate. I think like there's it's sort of like musicians and composers are like you have to be very very creative. Like sometimes like people are on budgets nowadays. Studios are smaller. um, More people are like taking on this idea that, oh, you've got to have the right mindset, not the right equipment. It's how you use it, your knowledge of the equipment, of the software, of your whatever instruments you have around you. What about you? What about yourself, Dan? What about you? How are you coping during the?
Um, as a music student, I feel like I've drifted away a lot from creating music and all the stuff we were involved in before, because with our course, it is all learning from experience rather than, just being told how to do it. So I feel like making music has been a lot more restricted. There's been no kind of collaboration, even though there are ways of collaborating. It's not as easy when it's not in person and you kind of with someone. So it's been a bit of a struggle, but I think it's going to be good when it all kind of comes back to normal, because people are going to have more ideas, maybe even more inspiration from. But yeah, I think it's been good to clear people's heads, kind of get a good perspective on where they're at and what kind of goals they want to achieve when they get back into making music. And yeah, I'm excited to see what's going to happen. What about you, Jay?
It's funny that you kind of ended on that little point, because for me, I certainly, in terms of my music making and creativity, sort of lost motivation and kind of the kind of routine and the steam I built up over the past kind of couple of years of uni. But then I kind of got to a point where I kind of realized like, oh, this is actually a really good time for reflection and kind of realizing who I want to be as a musician and kind of where I want to go. So definitely kind of since, I'm not quite sure when, but at some point kind of in this academic year, I've sort of turned it around. And I think definitely a lot of people have probably ended up doing it as well, and kind of realizing that all this time with themselves kind of like hasn't necessarily been wasted, because it's been such kind of, it is a bit of a silver lining, but kind of people have had that time to be able to get back in touch with themselves and properly connect with who they are and what they want. And I mean, I've kind of come to appreciate that, just to not get hung up on everything, I suppose. And yeah, just like you say, just excited for the future and just kind of the possibilities and opportunities that are going to come for when everyone's back out and everyone's going to be, you know, looking to work with everyone. I don't think people are going to get turned down, because people are going to just be so happy to be able to go and work with someone else and not being over a screen as well, which makes a huge difference, I think. But so I kind of did touch on it there, so I suppose, and I kind of we can kind of have a more open discussion about this. But in terms of how you guys have coped with that sort of thing, like what have been your kind of methods, I guess, for keeping the creativity up, you know, keeping your sights set on finishing, I guess, uni and kind of just the wider life, I suppose. Like what sort of things have you guys been up to or found that's helped you guys personally or musically or anything?
Yeah, for me, it's definitely actually setting aside time to be creative. And I often feel bad because I often feel like I don't do enough, because I hear people like in the music industry like, oh, it's hard work and oh, you got to put in a lot of hours. But the thing is, like, creativity, it's not like, oh, you can just do it for 12 hours straight being creative. Like if you try to like mix something or like, and you have like, you're going to be like all like in your head, and it's not going to sound good anyway. And the same with singing, like you can't sing for that many hours because suddenly it's like your voice is all like broken. So I think for me, it's been like putting aside like these 2 hours and these 2 hours that day, I'm going to be creative. And then actually just sit down and just be creative, like do whatever comes to you.
Yeah,
And, like,
I think having that preconception of something is kind of like, it's good sometimes, but a lot of the time it is great to sort of just like give yourself the space and then kind of see what comes.
Because then also, because you've done that, then you feel good about yourself because you did something and you stuck to that time limit. And then you can do, you know, like read a book, do some gaming, watch something on Netflix, and like just relax. And that's a good thing about this, you know, because we don't have to do the commute to everywhere. So like you've got so much extra time on your hands, and I think it's fine to just rest sometimes as well and not feel bad about it. Like if you binge watching something on Netflix, don't feel bad about it. Give yourself praise. You managed it. So yeah, I don't know. I just set aside time to be creative. I think that's like the main thing, because creativity is not just like it just comes up, you know. Sometimes it does, but it's kind of like, you know, running. You need to do it often, like to keep yourself fit. And like I think it's the same thing with creativity. Like if you do it often, you get some tools, you know, like I don't know, you get used to like using your brain in that way. Yeah.
I think for me, I have kind of alluded to it a couple of times, but I think definitely just kind of trying to connect with yourself. And because for whatever reason, kind of over the past 12 to kind of 18 months, there's been a lot going on in all sorts of aspects of the world. And that's definitely had an effect on kind of how creative or my creativity and kind of what I've been producing. So I think kind of being able to set your sights on what you want to kind of achieve, not necessarily achieve, but at least kind of what you want to affect, kind of what you feel like you want to voice your opinion on. Because even though some people might think, oh, if I could write a song about something, no one's going to listen to it, no one's going to care about the point that I'm making, but it's even just keeping kind of saturating the whole world with just stuff about a certain topic. It's kind of, yeah, I just think just keep doing whatever you feel is right. And
yeah, absolutely. I was also thinking what you said, like, oh, no one's going to listen to it. The thing is, you're not, the first song or whatever you write is not probably going to be your hit, you know?
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
So why not just write 300 songs? Because then 1 out of 300 is a better like chance than 1 out of 1. So it's just like, be creative, you know? And sometimes just be creative for your own sake. Like, make something you like. It doesn't need to be for everyone else's pleasure. So yeah, no, cool.
I think as well, as much as I've just said, kind of like finding yourself, I think I guess it kind of does relate to that, but definitely kind of getting in touch with what you either care about or just things that interest you, and really kind of searching into that and finding that inspiration from other places. Because as much as kind of we have to motivate and inspire ourselves to do the work to kind of be creative, I think finding things that give you that kind of excitement or passion is a huge thing, because that's kind of another kind of thing that I've kind of undergone throughout this whole kind of COVID situation. Is things have come up that I've realized, like, actually I care very much about that, and oh wow, I actually do feel this way about these things. And I think finding those sorts of things for you or anyone will just kind of only benefit, because then your understanding of kind of just becomes more clear, I guess, and you just gain clarity on stuff you want to create, which is only good in the long run, I suppose.
It's also been quite a struggle for people with, I mean, a huge struggle for people with mental health. So I think if you've got if you can make music, that's a really good distraction. But personally, I just haven't found the inspiration to be making music in lockdown. I think it's been good to walk. Walking's been good. Obviously, like, become more familiar with artists that you're listening to. I've been listening to a lot more albums rather than just individual songs, and kind of appreciating the whole album for itself. But yeah, definitely talking to different people in lockdown, understanding how they've coped, what kind of methods. It's interesting to hear how they distract themselves and how they can, like, motivate themselves to get up every day and find stuff to do. But yeah, I think it's good we're coming out of it now, because I think it has kind of come to an end. And yeah, I think people are ready to kind of meet up with people and communicate and get back into society. What's your opinion, Alex?
I think that like, after the whole, like, it was supposed to be originally 2 weeks, but after that time, like, people are, like, realize more how important communication is. Like it's not, working online is great with other people, but it's like, it's a completely different, I feel like you're still missing that human element of being able to make music with others in real life. It's, you just, I don't know, it's just something about having just that sense of accomplishment, like, oh, I'm spending time with other people, but we're making something great. And also, like, people are like, I love how more people are encouraging themselves to read books and watch more tutorials and just learn stuff in general. It's not necessarily just music. But with me, for example, like, I've spent a lot more time on like watching YouTube videos on tutorials about music production stuff that I didn't know, like just recapping stuff, basic stuff about mixing, and also going into deep rabbit holes of, like, how to use a clipper. And there's a few hour videos that I just found really interesting, but I wouldn't necessarily had time to watch if we didn't have these lockdowns necessarily. I just think, yeah, like, I've still learned a lot of stuff, and I've still felt like I have been somewhat productive during the lockdown times.
Yes, it sort of links back to what Ronnie was saying, of kind of giving you that space to kind of just see what happens. Because I know, for example, like, I've worked on songs where I've sort of just been like, oh, I'm just going to completely pick like a random key and just write a song in it, and then just sort of see where I go. And then I've ended up in like C flat melodic minor. And I'm like, what even is this? Like, a year or two ago, like, I would never have thought to try and play around and just see what happens. I'll just kind of do the thing that fits easiest or whatever. And then you, like you say, you end up getting in this rabbit hole. You're like, oh wow, then I can do this, and then I can modulate into this key from doing this, and it's just like, oh wow, awesome. And I know, like, if I didn't have this time to just kind of just play around and do it, then it just wouldn't have happened, because I would have been so caught up in just getting stuff done. But yeah, it's great to have that space. And with what Dan was saying about the mental health thing, that was certainly something that was affecting me. And it kind of was a cycle between of like, oh, I'm feeling rubbish, and then I'm not getting uni work done, or not being creative. But then I sort of realized with the creativity or kind of songwriting thing, I don't have to be angry that I'm not doing that. I can see that I've kind of got to flip it around and be like, wait a minute, I can actually, they kind of feed each other, kind of emotions and songwriting. You kind of get in touch with yourself more. And it sounds like I'm kind of keep going on about it, but it's that whole sort of kind of expressing yourself and kind of at least communicating with yourself who you actually are. And yeah, it's worked for me. So
Yeah, I was thinking also in regards to like what Dan said about the mental health in UJ, and like a lot of people are struggling, and I was thinking of how can like we can write music because we're musicians. That's like an obvious thing, like to help ourselves and to help others. And then I was thinking of that in order to like create a change, maybe we have to be the change that we want to create. And research actually shows that volunteering, for example, giving and things, actually has a huge impact on your own life as well as others. But like, if I buy something for me and if I buy something for others, my happiness lasts longer and is, I don't know, bigger than if I would have bought something for myself. Like, it's more everlasting in that sense. And maybe just like look for ways on how to help others. And it sounds silly because you're like, yeah, but I'm struggling, and I'm like, we're all, there are definitely like hard times for everyone. And then wanting to do a change for others may not like make sense, but it will help, or it can help. And like things like just small things, maybe you have like housemates, maybe like buy I don't know, buy in some cheap pizzas and stuff and have like a film night for any, like, you don't have to have a reason, just for kindness sake. Or for example, Alex, he's created some awesome music that he's running on YouTube now. What I could have done is texted him and saying, hey, that KiloeveReviews music that you're putting out there is actually really good, and I've been listening to it and it's awesome. But like just these little things. There is also, I have friends that are doing like help phones, volunteering, speaking to people that are feeling isolated due to Corona and stuff. So there's heaps of things. If you're in a coffee line, maybe pay it forward, like so basically you pay your coffee and then you put on some cash and say that you're going to pay for the next one. There's heaps of things. And I just think because research is showing that it's actually helpful for yourself as well. Like, why not just do something? Yeah.
That was really good point there, Sophie.
no, yeah,
And because we're like, I think also with the pandemic, like sometimes we limit ourselves even more. So we feel limited, and then we just like add, oh yeah, but I can't meet anyone. And we like kind of get this. We just feel very sorry for ourselves, I guess. Which is sometimes it's like, I'm not saying like someone's sadness or depression is worse than others. Like mental health is mental health, and like we want everyone to be healthy, of course. But yeah, absolutely. Like I also think just like thinking of your situation and like sometimes that kind of perspective that, okay, people are having it way worse than I have. Like for me as well, like I don't live alone. I think it helps a lot. Like even though you get really annoyed at that one person you live with, you can get like a bit like tired of them. It's like, it's still like, okay, you have someone there. Like think of those people who have no one, or who have a very like unsafe environment they live in. So yeah, absolutely doing something. And I guess those like phone things like you can do from home as well, so it wouldn't be too hard. So yeah, no, absolutely.
I think as well, carrying sort of that thought forward of like Sophie said, doing those kind of kind things and reaching out to people and kind of preempting the appreciation that you'll get when you will be able to go and do that in person and stuff. Because I know, at least for me, once everything opens up again, I'll be back working at a pub, and like just being able to pour a pint for someone. And I mean, I don't know if straight away we'll be able to kind of hand it to them over the bar, but at least being able to just kind of like provide someone with a service is going to be like, oh my God, like, I mean, there's always going to be people who are going to frustrate me and be kind of rude customers, but just being able to kind of, or even I guess the regulars that will come or whatever, just kind of having that connection is just a very exciting thing. Being able to kind of not necessarily hold on to it like it's the only thing you've got, but kind of knowing that it is going to be back soon, kind of being able to make these small connections with people that I guess kind of remind ourselves of kind of what, you know, it means to be kind of human and living in a society like this where we're all sort of able to do these things pretty freely and just, yeah.
No, absolutely. I was just thinking of something completely different when we talked about being creative, and some of you mentioned like it was a bit hard to be creative. But I was also thinking like sometimes, you know, the creative process happens after the event. So like maybe after COVID, like you can look back on it more like and draw, I guess, creativity from your experience that have happened. So I think like instead of like beating yourself up for not being creative at the event, like while it's happening, like you can still be creative afterwards, you know, like looking back, that can be like a really good creative source. And like especially then when we come back to society and you kind of get that, whoa, you really get that picture of what we were in, because we don't really understand it, I think, before we're out of it. So I think like not beat yourself up too much about it, and yeah, because it's not like, oh, it happened now, you can't be creative about it. Like it's still there for you to use, like when we're out of it as well.
Yeah, I think that point of really not being too hard on yourself is a good one, because I know I certainly suffer, or at least used to suffer from that, and that kind of is just a self-defeating kind of policy. It just sort of, if you get annoyed at yourself for not doing things, then you kind of just manifest that, and then it will just kind of end up, you'll end up feeling like that every time something doesn't happen. And I think being able to kind of beat that feeling, or at least just kind of being able to appreciate what you have done, is just massive. Even though it might not feel like it, just keeping that momentum and keeping that kind of continuity is just such a big thing. And I think at least I know I did. I definitely took that for granted. And it's just those small steps you just need to take, I guess, to kind of ensure that one day, you know, you will end up one day kind of being able to write a song in kind of however long or whatever you're aiming to do. You kind of, it's just building towards that. And especially with what we've been through, kind of like, it's very unprecedented. It's just getting used to the whole situation, and then it's kind of even gone before we've even got used to it. And it's just, yeah, like Ronnie says, it you know, we're not out of it yet, so how can you really kind of properly reflect on it? Because, you know, this the old saying, like, hindsight is 2020, and I'm sure we'll look back and we'll go, oh, we could have done this, we could have done this, but, you know, we couldn't have seen that at the time. So
I just wanted to build on, or like echo on that. Like I heard this phrase, like you fall in love with the process of like improving yourself. Like eventually, like all the best people, like in their craft, it doesn't happen overnight, and like the challenges become part of you. Kind of like eventually, like you will find like how you can sometimes like you have really low moments, and then maybe eventually you reach that high moment, and it drops down again, and it comes back up, and you have a lot like you can surprise yourself at how like how things can change, both bad and good, you know.
And also, you know, we're all in this together. It's like there's not a single person on this planet that's not, you know, experiencing, or I don't know, but many people are experiencing some parts of, you know, this pandemic. And as musicians, we're all in it together. And I'm just echoing what everyone has been saying about it being hard. And I think what you guys have been saying about continuity and just doing like a tiny bit, like even if it's just for 10 minutes, put on the timer and like 10 minutes, I'm going to just sit down and write music. It might be horrible, but then at least you're connecting with your feelings, which is really helpful and like a really beneficial thing to do. Yeah. No, but I'm excited for hopefully bright times ahead.
To sort of quickly add on to what you just said there, Sophie, it reminds me of back in first year when we had the composition module, and we had that task of sort of waking up 10 minutes every day. Like as soon as you wake up, do 10 minutes of just think of a word and write. I remember thinking at the beginning, like, it kind of seems a bit kind of aimless and like, what do you do? But after a while, you sort of can, you know, you do it for like a month straight, and then you look back at what you've got and you're like, oh my God, I've written like, I don't know how many words. And it's not even if like the whole pieces of kind of whatever you've written is good. You might just look and kind of see like, oh wow, there's like one line in there that's like, geez, like that's really cool. And just that can spawn so many ideas. It's kind of a cheesy analogy a little bit, but it's kind of like just a single acorn can go into like a huge tree. Like, yeah, just nice little aside, I suppose.
So true. Yeah, but it's so lame, but repetition is key and it gets you places. Especially as musicians, we have to like work so independently, and you know, we don't have necessarily a boss that's nagging in the back. So if we want to go somewhere, we have to, you know, get there. And I think that's great about, you know, knowing and having friends in the industry. We can like push each other forward and like motivate each other. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I just want to echo again, like what Sophie said of repetition. Like eventually, it becomes like second nature what you do, and like if you do it often enough, maybe there is that chance that you might experience way less like writer's block and less. You might if you do, although it is a bit risky, like you have the risk of burning out, but if you possibly get through it, like you might never ever experience like something so drastically. You might never experience a drastic feeling of, oh, I don't want to write anything at all. Like maybe if you like have that knowledge and like just keep working at it, you like it's worth taking maybe a risk. Like you go hard or go home. Like just repeat what you do. Keep going. Milk it to death. Keep going.
Do you want to go, Sophie? Or I was just kind of say, does anyone else have anything sort of to add on to anything, or do we think we're all sort of ready to wrap up?
I was going to say the same thing. Oh. Ronnie, do you have something? No.
No, sir.
Well, I mean, I'll let you kind of play us out then, if you like, Sophie. If you feel so.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so if you're still there listening to this conversation, I feel like we had a few really good points. Continuity, I don't even know how to say it in English. Continuity. I'm just going to pretend that's the word.
Continuity.
Thank you, Jay. Going for walks, like Dan said, just being outside, I think is very beneficial in this time. Keep going with your craft, even though it's cheap, like Alex said. Not the craft itself, but the equipment you use. And just come join our webpage. Go and have a look. It's called CaseM, and we post regularly different podcasts and articles and such. So yeah, have a look if you want to. Thank you so much for listening today. We are the CaseM Team, and we'll see you soon.
Goodbye. Thank you, everyone.